The ending of Task Episode 3 came with the reveal that someone on Tom's team is passing information to the Dark Hearts, but who could it be? This episode of the HBO limited series saw Tom's team finally get a lead after Robbie and Cliff made a desperate attempt to move the stolen fentanyl. They, unfortunately, chose the wrong person to recommend a buyer. Cliff had reached out to his old cellmate, who promised to provide a connection. Instead, this old pal broke into Cliff's home to steal the fentanyl for himself. It just so happens that Tom and his task force, which includes Alea, Lizzie, and Grasso, planned to bust down Cliff's door that night as well. They got a tip from one of Peach's colleagues, who had heard about the home invasions and knew that Cliff was involved as well. Task is now only inches away from discovering Robbie's identity, but, somehow, the Dark Hearts have all the same intel. Task Episode 3 reveals someone on Tom's task force is passing information to the Dark Hearts. Lizzie, Anthony, and Alea in Task Episode 2. After Task's confrontation at Cliff's house, a closer look at the street leading up to it all revealed that the Dark Hearts had also closed in on the residents. They monitored Cliff's house all night, presumably waiting for the man himself to get back. Seeing this, Tom immediately recognized that the motorcycle gang had somehow obtained what should have been confidential information on their lead. Since the only people who knew about the Cliff lead were Tom, Alea, Lizzie, and Grasso, it stands to reason that one of these Task characters passed the information on to the Dark Hearts. This is a significant twist, since so far, these have all been thoroughly likable characters. They appear to be moral and genuinely eager to solve this case for all the right reasons. Of course, this Task twist means that this isn't true for at least one of these characters. Interestingly, this episode gave us the most information about Alea, Lizzie, and Grasso as characters. There are subtle hints that any one of them could have some allegiance to the Black Hearts. In Task Episode 3, we learned that Alea used to be in a very dangerous domestic violence situation. She hadn't even expected to make it out of that relationship alive, and we don't yet know how she managed it. It's possible that Alea turned to desperate measures, asking the Dark Hearts for help, thus establishing a quiet allegiance. Lizzie also provided some new information regarding her history in Task Episode 3. She is a state trooper, and it becomes evident in this episode that she isn't well respected among her colleagues. Her lack of confidence may have provided Lizzie with a reason to find protection and support within the Dark Hearts gang. Naturally, they would want something in return. Grasso is competent and surprisingly kind, but there were a couple of suspicious moments with his character during this episode. First, he suddenly had to leave his bar date with Lizzie. Then, he revealed through his otherwise touching speech that he doesn't have the greatest respect for police forces in general. This may be the biggest red flag among all Task's potential suspects. Grasso is most likely the informant in Task. Fabian Frankel in Task. Grasso's comment about corrupt police in HBO's Task Episode 3 didn't seem like much at first. If anything, the moment felt like an opportunity for Grasso to address Liz's bullying colleagues. However, after the ending reveals that there is an informant on Tom's task force, Grasso's words have become a bit suspicious. Anthony Grasso is a county detective, so out of his teammates, he's the most likely to have seen some pretty terrible things. From his position, he would be very privy to the sort of corruption that happens within the police force, and this could have motivated him to form alternative allegiances. Under the right light, the Dark Hearts might seem like a better option. It's also suspicious that, unlike Alea and Lizzie, we got the least amount of real personal information about Grasso in Task Episode 3. He's a bit more secretive and private, implying that he might have something to hide. His comment that he suddenly needed to go meet someone was pretty strange as well. Of course, Task could just be dropping a massive red herring. Why Erin has been feeding Robbie and Cliff information about the Dark Hearts. Robbie looking at a child in Task. Task Episode 3 did more than reveal that there is an informant on Tom's team. We also finally got to see who among the Dark Hearts was feeding information to Robbie and Cliff. It's revealed to be Erin, Jason's wife. As it turns out, Erin had been having an affair with Robbie's brother, Billy, which is why Jason beat him to death. After Billy's death, Erin and Robbie came together with a plan to get rid of Jason. Erin provided information about drug houses, and Robbie robbed them. It was doubly beneficial, as Robbie received extra cash, while the situation itself reflected poorly on Jason. Of course, the bloody aftermath of Robbie's and Cliff's most recent break-in made a much bigger mess of things. What Cliff being found out by the task force means for Robbie. Tom Pelphrey as Robbie getting into a car in Task. Credit, Peter Kramer, copyright symbol HBO, courtesy Everett Collection. Both Tom's task force and the Black Hearts now know about Cliff in Task. This means that both the feds and the motorcycle gang are only one step away from discovering that Robbie is the one behind these break-ins. Tom already knows that Cliff works for Waste Management, and it's only a matter of time before he discovers who the man's closest colleague is. Of course, the Dark Hearts may figure this out first, which would likely be even worse news for Robbie and his family than a criminal arrest. Tom won't have the full benefit of his task force, since he now has to tiptoe around the possible informant. Additionally, Tom's personal issues could get in the way of an effective investigation. Why Tom can't forgive his son, Ethan, in Task. Mark Ruffalo in HBO's Task. Another significant reveal of Task thus far is that Tom's wife was killed by their adoptive son, Ethan. Now in prison and awaiting sentencing, Ethan is implied to have a significant psychological condition, and was off his medications for a period during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is when he pushed Tom's wife down the stairs, killing her. We finally had a chance to meet Ethan in this Task episode, and it's evident that he is extremely remorseful for what he did. Tom had previously defended Ethan, too, but he couldn't bring himself to visit his son in prison. In Task Episode 3, following his head injury, Tom finally revealed that he simply can't forgive Ethan. The death of his wife was too painful.